for part 2 of our project, we're going to take this room and turn it into this room, which is essentially two major things. Working on the staircase and turning this very plain and simple staircase into something that's a more realistic staircase, and adding molding. Molding around the doors, the windows, chair rail, picture rail, wainscoting, and then creating these two plantation shutters. Before we get into actually doing that, I want to talk a little bit about molding. Molding can be super tedious, and rather than have you work on the tedium, I've gone ahead and pre-selected some parts for you, and they are in the Molding for Project 3 file, which is available to download from WebCourses, so you should do that. And then I just wanted to talk to you about where this stuff came from. So the first thing is, as with everything, hopefully it started with research for the stairs at least. So I found this picture online of a staircase that I liked and decided that I would base the newel post, that's what this is, on this newel post. And I've simplified it some, but it's based on this. And then this sort of style of balusters I liked. There's a piece of molding here that follows the carriage of the stairs. The stairs are wood, and this is painted white. So I found this piece of research and decided to base it on that. So that's where the idea came from. So then where these actual shapes came from, this is the half of the newel post. We're gonna extrude this a long path or sweep it in some cases, so I'm drawing half of it. So basically some of this is just rectangles. So I knew that I wanted the newel post to be 6 inches wide or 6 inches square, so I just drew a 3-inch wide rectangle and then started adding other shapes. Some of these are shapes that I created, and some of them are molding pieces. Where do those come from, you ask? They can come from a variety of places. There are some that are built into Vectorworks. So if you go to the Resource Manager and click here for a second, and then open up Vectorworks Libraries, Objects, Architecture, the second file that's available is this Copper Beech Millwork file, which has hundreds of pieces of molding in it. Unfortunately, what it doesn't have, it seems, is a catalog. But, perhaps if I click here, it will take me there. But at any rate, to use these, they're just regular symbols. So you double click on them, bring them into the drawing, and there they are. So lots and lots of moldings available in Vectorworks. So some of the moldings that we're going to be using are from Vectorworks. Some of them are from my molding file that I've had for years. And the stair molding actually came from the internet. And there are lots of resources for 3D modeling and CAD in general available on the internet. So I just did a Google search for stair parts CAD drawing, which took me to a variety of places, but this one I found I like. This is Cooper, I guess not Copper, Cooper Stairworks, which is a company that makes stair parts. And on their website, they have a technical section which has CAD drawings that you can just download. It's not uncommon for companies in the building industry to have CAD drawings available. I think the theory is if you can download their drawings and use them in your design, then you're more likely to buy their product, right? So I went to Wood Balusters. I found a baluster I liked. It was this one. I downloaded the DWG, which is an AutoCAD file. You're most likely to find drawings on the internet in the DWG format. So I downloaded the DWG format, and then I imported it into Vectorworks. And whenever you import a file from a different file type into Vectorworks, it's a good idea not to bring it directly into your file. It's a good idea to open up a new file. So I opened up a new file, and imported file, import DWG. I imported the DWG file. I'm going to bring in the handrail because it's slightly easier to show you than the baluster, because I also got the handrail from the same website. I assigned it some inches there, and it brings in this shape. Now, as is common with most AutoCAD files, it comes in lines and line segments and arcs, not a solid piece. So I need to turn this into a solid. And the easiest way to do that is to use the 2D polygon tool in its third mode, which is outer boundary mode. And what outer boundary mode does is if you just draw around a shape that's been created using lines and arcs and things, it will trace the boundary basically and give you a solid shape. This only works if all of the lines are actually touching in the original file. So sometimes when you download files, the drafting is just slightly sloppy. If you zoom in, you'll find that lines are not connected really, so you may have to clean it up a little bit. But that's how you can turn an imported file, really of any kind, into a Vectorworks shape. And then I copied that and pasted it into my file of molding here. So I just wanted to let you know where all of these shapes came from that we're going to be using. You would generate your own shapes if you were doing your own design, do your own molding research, and either use the molding in Vectorworks or find molding online and set the shapes up for yourself. Okay, let's get started on the actual project. So the first thing we should do is save this file as part 2 so that we don't overwrite what we've already done. So file, save as, project 3, part 2. And then I'm going to go back to the scenery layer and OpenGL. So the first thing we're going to work on is the staircase, and because we're going to be doing a lot of work in the staircase, I'd like to work on it separately, at least for a while. So in order to facilitate that, I'm just going to group it with itself. So Command or Windows G to create a group, and then we can double click on that group, and now we have the stairs by themselves. So I'm going to go to top plan here. The first thing I want to do is to create and install the Newell posts. So I'm going to go to the molding for project 3 folder file and select the parts for the short Newell and copy them, and then go back to project 3 and paste them in, Command or Windows V. So what I want to do with these, because this is square, I can't sweep a square, but I can extrude along path a square. So we're going to extrude along path. And because this is slightly complicated, I want to make sure that I know exactly what's going on. So I'm going to set this up so that I can fix the profile. So I'm going to go to left view and modify rotate right to stand those elements up so that then when I go to the front, they are facing forward. The next thing I am going to do is go into one of the isometric views, and then I'm going to draw a square to be the path that I extrude along, and it doesn't matter what size the square is, except that that's outrageously large there. Let me turn snapping off and see if I can make a better size square now. That still just wants to make a giant square. So I'm going to just type 4 inches to make a 4-inch square. Then I'm going to grab it by its center and place it at the center of, or sorry, the bottom left-hand corner of this part of the Newell post. Then I will select all of those elements and do a model extrude along path, and we'll keep clicking until the square turns red. There we go. And I want to make sure to have fix profile checked, and then if we click OK, it will, and this looks very strange in perspective, but if we are in orthogonal, rather, if we go to front view, you can see that it does in fact look like it's supposed to. I'm going to go ahead and move this up so that the bottom of it is at the bottom of the stairs, and then back to top plan. Since I'm going to be using more than one of these, I'm going to go ahead and turn this into a symbol. It's a good idea when you're building a model, if you have more than one of anything, to turn it into a symbol. For a variety of reasons, it makes rendering slightly faster, but it also just makes editing later easier. If you need to change the symbol, you only have to change once. You don't have to change all the copies. So I'm going to just create a hybrid symbol by drawing the rectangle here on top and selecting both objects. So I have two objects, a 2D object and a 3D object, and then modify, create symbol. And I'm going to call this short newel post. I'm going to put it in the scenery symbols folder. And there we have it. So then it's going to go, the center of it is going to line up right here with the left corner of the first step. So there, and then I'm going to duplicate it, Command or Windows D, and put the next one here. So let's look at front view and we'll see that that's what that looks like. So the next thing we're going to do is repeat this process exactly again, only to make the taller newel post. So I'm going to go back to the molding for project 3 folder. I'm going to select the parts for the newel post, which I just realized should not have a K. These are not canool posts, they are newel posts. Sorry about that. At any rate, I'm going to copy this, edit, copy, back to my file. I'm going to paste in, go to the left view, modify rotate right to stand it up, back to front view, make sure it looks like I expected it, and then I'm going to go into one of the isometric views. And I don't really have to go into isometric. I could do this from the top or any other view. I just like to sort of see what I'm doing. So this time I'm going to double click on the rectangle tool and just enter the 4 inches and tell it that I want to center it when I insert it. And then I can just put it, oh, that's interesting. Huh, I wonder, is that, oh, right, that's because this is 0. But ultimately, you'll see it doesn't make any difference where the path is in this particular case. So I'm going to select all of these objects, and I should have 8 objects, and model extrude along path. We're going to keep highlighting until we get the square. There it is. Make sure that fixed profile is selected and click OK. And then we're going to look at this from the front and make sure that it looks like we expected. It does. I'm going to go ahead and line this up with the bottom of the stairs. And then we're going to turn this into a symbol. So I'm going to draw a rectangle. Going to select both objects, modify, create symbol. I'm going to call this one tall newel. And leave everything else the same. Okay, we're going to put it in this scenery symbols folder. And there we have our tall newel. I'm going to duplicate that and move it over here. So let's look at that from the front. So far so good. So now I'm going to exit the group and just check my work so far and make sure that this all makes sense. So we're gonna go there. And it looks like that this newel post should be slightly closer to that wall. So I'm wondering if the top 2 are in the right place. So we're going to go back to top plan and look at, this should be at least up against the wall. And also, this wall is acting as a newel post, basically. So the center of this wall should line up with the center of this newel post. So it looks like that we need to move these 2 newels up an inch. So let's do that. Let's go into the group, double click, then we're going to select these 2 newels, modify move 1 inch up. We also could do the move by points tool if we wanted to. So there, we're going to exit the group. We're going to go back to an isometric view, and yeah, that that looks better. That makes a little more sense. So back to top plan. Next, we're going to work on the stair treads. So if we look at our research photo again, we'll see that the stair treads overhang the carriage and the riser and also appear to be rounded. So we're going to use a piece of molding around the stairs to create that rounded overhang. So that molding is in the molding for Project 3 file, and there it is. It's this piece of molding, so I'm going to copy that and then go back to Project 3. We're going to double click to get back into our stair group. I'm going to paste that molding in, and then because it is facing up and it needs to be facing front, I'm going to go to left view, modify, rotate right, and back to the front. And then I need to create a rectangle that is the same size as our stair tread. So we're going to draw that rectangle. Then I'm just going to move it over here out of the way a little bit. I'm going to grab our molding, and I'm going to duplicate this rectangle and put the second one on top of the first one. And why we did that will become apparent in a moment. So then I'm going to line my molding up with the rectangle. I'm going to put it here in the center. For some reason, it works better when you put it in the center of to do the extrude along path than it does when you put it in one of the corners. It gets confused when you put it in the corner for some reason. So I'm going to select the molding and the step together, and then we're going to do Model, Extrude Along Path. We're going to select the rectangle as the path and make sure that the profile is fixed. Click OK, and we have almost a step. What we have is the molding around the step, but we're missing the step itself, hence the second rectangle. So now I'm going to put that rectangle back where it was, and I'm going to extrude that down an inch, Model, Extrude, -1 inch, and then I can select both of those things and add them together. Model, Add Solids, and now we have our stair with the fancy molding. So I'm going to turn this into a hybrid symbol by drawing a rectangle and selecting both objects, and then modify, create symbol, stair tread. Okay. Going to put it in the scenery symbols folder. Okay. And then we can start putting them in place. And at this point, I find it easier to be in top rather than top plan, so I can actually see the real architecture that I'm working with. So I want to line up the center of the stair, not the molding, but the center of the stair that we just created with the center of our original step. And then if I go into left view, I'll see that in order to make that happen, I need to pull it down so that it corresponds to the top of the staircase, so that the tread is at the top of the original tread, if that makes sense. So then I'm going to duplicate this and put the center of it there at the center of my next step. The next step is a landing. It's a special case, so we'll have to create a different tread for that. So I'm going to go back to top plan view, and I'm going to duplicate the step and then modify, rotate it to the left, and back to top view so that I can line this up, the center of it, the midpoint, with the midpoint of that step, back to front. And I'll move this up so that it lines up with the top of the actual step. Then we'll duplicate this one, select its midpoint, move it to there, duplicate again, and for the grad students, the undergrad should know this, when you duplicate something and then keep duplicating it, it will just repeat what you've already done. So let's look at this in OpenGL and see what we have. Okay, so far so good. It looks a little weird here, and I'll explain that in a moment. But before I get to that, we want to create the special tread for the landing. So we'll go to top view. We'll draw this rectangle. The purple working plane is very helpful to know where that goes. Then I can drag this over here out of the way. I'm going to go back to my molding files. And since I have to keep turning these to face forward when I import them into the other file, I'm just going to go ahead and select them all and go to the left view and rotate them all. Rotate right. So that if I go to the front view now they're all standing up, so I can save myself a bit of a step. So I'm going to select the that molding. I'm going to copy it. We're going to go back to our file, drag this out of the way. I'm going to paste it in, and you'll see now it comes in the right orientation. I'm going to line it up with my rectangle. I'm going to duplicate my rectangle so that I can create the actual step, or landing rather. Then I'm going to select the rectangle and the molding and do a model extrude along path, making sure that the rectangle is the path and the molding is fixed. We'll click OK. We'll grab our second rectangle and extrude it down an inch, and that setting is still left from the last time we did it. We'll click OK. We'll look in OpenGL and make sure everything is good. We'll select both. Then we will model add solids. So far so good. So then we're going to go back to what view do we want to do this in? Let's do this in top. Or maybe top plan. Yeah, top, not top plan. Right. So we're going to grab this by its midpoint, and this is the internal midpoint of the step itself, not the molding. I'm going to grab that there and line it up with the midpoint there. We'll go to front and maybe even to the left and make sure that it actually is in the right place. And because I drew the original rectangle using the automatic working plane, you'll remember this landing turned purple and I drew the rectangle right there. The rectangle was already in the right place, in the right plane. It's the right height above the ground, which is why I don't have to move this up, because the rectangle that we extruded around was already in the right place. So if we look at all of this in context with the rest of the model, let's actually go to perspective view and see that that is starting to look good and make sense. So, but one more step to finish the treads before we move on to the railing. We're going to go back into the model, back to out of perspective. In order to get out of perspective, the quick way to get out of perspective is just go to top plan. Whenever you've got a top plan, it automatically takes you out of perspective. Now you'll notice that something here is funky. That's because I didn't turn this landing into a symbol. So I should probably go ahead and do that. So I'm going to drag this out of the way. I'm going to draw my rectangle. Going to select both. Spotlight, no, that's not true. Modify, create symbol. We're going to call this landing tread. We're going to click OK. We're going to put it in the scenery folder, scenery symbols folder. Great. And then back to top. And we can just put this back right where it was. Okay. So you'll notice some weirdness here and here. And what that indicates is two 3D objects occupying the same space at the same time with a common face. What's happening here is these treads are, the top of them is lining up exactly with the top of the original staircase. So I need to fix that so that the treads are, our new treads are on top of the stairs, not inside the stairs, if that makes sense. So see now the top of this staircase corresponds to the top of the tread. I need the top of this to be underneath. So the easiest way to do that is to just move our original staircase down an inch. Modify, move, -1 inch. So now we're lined up, we're inside the molding, but we're at the bottom of our 1 inch extrude. So we no longer have two things, the two surfaces trying to occupy the same space. But of course now our staircase is an inch too tall. You could just leave that, and that last inch of the stairs would just be inside the platform, and that would be perfectly acceptable if you were doing this for rendering purposes. But since we're going to be drawing plans from these later, we should try to clean it up. So we're just going to subtract the bottom of the staircase. So I'm going to draw a rectangle that's that high and extrude it 4 feet, I think. We'll try that. That should work. Then I'm going to go to top, and I need this to be under the entire original staircase, and 4 feet wasn't enough, but fortunately I can just stretch it. So now I'm going to go back to an isometric view, and I can select the staircase and my new rectangle and do a model subtract solids. And I'm going to tell it by highlighting the staircase in red that it is the solid that I would like to subtract from. I'll click OK, and that is done. Now you'll notice that this is no longer a simple stair. It's not a plug-in stair object anymore. When I did the subtraction, it just turned it into a solid subtraction. So, but I don't need the stairs anymore. At least I don't need the original stairs. So that completes our work on the treads. Next, we're going to work on this piece of molding that follows the line of the stairs. So there should be a line right here. And rather than adding molding to this facing, which would increase the thickness of this and would not interface well with the treads that we've just created, I'm going to not add molding here, but I'm going to subtract part of the wall to create the molding. So we're going to go to front view. I'm going to draw a line that is at the same angle as the stairs. So from this top corner to, should be that corner, and I'm going to check and make sure my line passes through the same point. Yeah, so that's a line that's parallel to the stairs. And then I'm going to decide how thick this molding is. I'm going to just, I don't remember, I'm going to make a guess that I need to move this down 6 inches. Let's see. Model, modify, move, -6. Okay, yeah, that looks good. So then I'm going to go into wireframe for this so I can actually see the edges of things. I'm going to extend this line down to there. This is the point where the stairs switch angles. So the stairs start going up here, and then this is the landing. Now I'm going to use the 2D polygon tool to draw the shape that I'm going to subtract. So there, hold down Shift and complete it. And because I want this piece of molding to be 3/4 of an inch thick, I'm going to extrude the negative space 3/4 of an inch. Model extrude 0.75. Okay. Then I'm going to go to left view, and I'm going to line up the front face of this with the front face here. So I'm going to grab this by here, then I'm going to hold down Shift, and I'm going to move over until I intersect there. So let's go back into an isometric view so you can see. Right. So now you can see, because it's doing this weird thing, the face of this is intersected with the face of this. So if I select them both and then do a model subtract solids, and I'm going to subtract from the larger staircase, and now I have created that piece of molding. I should probably do it down here too, although there's not going to be much of it. But while we're doing it, so we're going to go to left view, and probably wireframe would be helpful. I'm going to draw my line again. That's going to the same angle as the stairs. So from that point to that point. So it's going to be that. Then I'm going to move that down the same 6 inches. So it's just this little corner here we're going to subtract. So now I will use the 2D polygon tool to draw this. And it's not going to snap here because these are, sometimes it snaps to an intersection, a 2D intersection, but it doesn't sometimes snap to 3D intersection. So I just have to zoom in and make sure that I'm in the right place. And then I'll zoom back out and come over to complete. So there is my triangle. Then I can extrude that, model, extrude 3/4 of an inch. Then I'm going to go to top. And yeah, that's all the way over here. So we're going to drag that over by clicking and holding Shift until we intersect the original stairs. So that's going to be the first line here. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the other side while I'm at it. So I'm going to use the mirror tool, and I'm going to mirror down the center of the stairs like that. So now this one appears over here in a mirror, and then I can select them both and do a, actually let's check and make sure that they're in the right place. Yeah, that seems correct. So sometimes the weird, yeah, well, yeah, there it is. So I was going to say sometimes that doesn't happen, but there it is, so, which indicates that I have two faces occupying the same space, which is good because I'm going to subtract one of them. So now model subtract solids. I want to subtract from the big staircase. So oh, I didn't have the staircase selected. I had two objects selected, but the two objects were my two triangles. So I'm going to do that again. And we'll select all three objects now. Model, subtract solids, and now the big staircase is selected. So I can click OK, and that subtraction was made there. And we'll just check the other side, and we'll see that the same subtraction was made there. So now we have our molding. We're getting close on the stairs. So the next thing we will do, actually the final thing we will do to the stairs, is to build the actual handrails and the balusters. Before we start on the handrails, this seems like it would be a good time to look at the staircase in context and make sure all of the work we've done works with the rest of the model. So I'm going to exit the group, and we're going to see that, as far as I can tell, this looks okay. It interfaces with the walls in the proper way. What's going on here? The front of this is weird. The front of this step corresponds with the wall. So one of the advantages of doing designs in 3D is that you can discover these things that might look good in the 2D drawing, in the ground plan, but then you look at it in 3D and you go, that's weird. And it's better to discover it now before it's turned into wood in the shop. So there are a couple things we can do about this. I could cut the stair off here. But the easiest thing is just to extend the wall an inch, I think. So let's just see if that solves the problem. And of course, the step is an inch deeper now because of the molding. So as is often the case in real life, when you start adding molding, you start running into weird construction problems. So I'm going to just look at this wall and see that it's 4 feet 2 long. What if I just make it 4 feet 3 instead? See if that solves our problem. Hey, look, now that makes more sense. So there's a little bit of strangeness here, but this is not nearly as strange as that was. So problem solved. So we will move along to creating handrails. We're going to go back into the group. We're going to go to the left. I think we'll work in wireframe some more, and we need to draw a line again that's parallel to the stairs. Fortunately, we have a good reference point here because we've already done this once, so I'm just going to copy that line. And I'm going to put it here in the center of this step. And then I'm going to move it up 36 inches. Modify, move 36. Because that's a good height for a handrail, is 36 inches. And if I shift and extend this, it hits this newel post in a good place here. And it hits this newel post in a good place there. So that seems like a good place to put the handrail. Now we'll go to our molding folder and grab the handrail, copy it back into our project. We're going to paste it. And then I need to line the handrail profile up so that it's perpendicular to this line. And the easiest way for me to do that is to establish a perpendicular line. So I'm going to do that with the rectangle tool, believe it or not. I'm going to use the final mode, the 3-point rotated mode. So I'm going to click once here and once here on the line, and then just pull up a rectangle of any size. It doesn't matter, because all I'm looking for is this line / angle. So now I can take my profile and line it up with that corner, and then use the rotate tool to rotate it so that it's aligned with the rectangle, which means it's perpendicular to the line. So then I'm going to delete this. I'm going to go to front view and see if I can find these things. So they're actually pretty close to each other. Then I'm going to grab the center of the handrail and put it right there. While I'm at it, because I'm going to need it again, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this and move it up here out of the way. So if I take this and that, two things, and do an extrude along path, model extrude along path, and I want the line to be the path object, and yes, I would like to fix the profile, please. If I click OK, there we have our railings. So I'm going to go to top view. So I'm going to grab the railing, and then I'm going to hold down shift to make sure that I'm moving horizontally only. I'm going to move over and line it up temporarily, at least, to this corner here. Now seems like a good time to do a little cleanup here and bring our null post to front. So modify, move, that's not true, send to front. That's what I want. I'm going to send to front. So where I actually want the handrail is lined up with the center of the null post. So I'm going to draw a line here and there. And then I can grab the null post, sorry, the handrail by its center and hold down shift and drag over until it intersects that line. And now the railing is centered. I'm going to go back to the left view and you can see that it's centered. Now we have a decision to make. It sort of depends on what you're doing with the model. You'll notice that the handrail intersects the null post that goes inside them. If we look at this in a solid view, that it looks fine, and we absolutely could just leave it like that. But just because I feel compelled to show you how to create a clean model, we're gonna chop this off so that it lines up exactly. So we're gonna do a solid subtraction. So I'm going to draw a rectangle. Whoops. See, I'm still in the wrong mode. Back to the first mode. I'm going to draw a rectangle here that lines up with the left-hand side of this null post and encompasses all of the handrail that's under it. And then I will draw a rectangle here. Then I'm going to extrude both of these rectangles. Model extrude, let's try 4 inches. 4 inches, okay. Then if we go to top view, click on one of them, hold down shift and pull it over, and just make sure that the handrail is completely inside the box. I'm going to go back to isometric here for a second. Then we can just do a model. Oh, we have to select the handrail. Model subtract solids, and we are subtracting from the handrail. If we click OK, now the handrail has been cut at an angle so that it fits. So it's a cleaner model. It would have looked fine if we had just left it the way that it was, but it's nice to clean things up. Also, because we're creating plans from it later, it's probably useful to have it actually lined up the way it's supposed to. So we're going to turn this into a symbol now because we're going to use it again. So we'll draw that rectangle and then select both objects, the rectangle and the handrail, and then we'll do modify create symbol. We're going to call this short handrail. We're going to say OK. We're going to put it in our scenery folder. OK. And this exact same handrail will be over here. So I can just use the mirror tool with the center of the stairs to drag or to mirror the handrail. And then while I'm here, I'll clean this up. These should be in front. So modify, send to front. So far so good. So now we need to do this handrail. So we're going to go to front view. We will draw this line. We're going to line it up with the center of one of the stairs. Move it up 36 inches. Then I'm going to take my molding piece. I'm going to go to top view. And we're going to rotate that, left or right? To the right, I think. If I rotate, actually by right I meant left. Left. Let's go to front view and say, hey, I guessed right. Okay, good. So then in isometric, I will grab it by its center and line it up with the end of the line there. Back Just want to see if I can cut this off, but not really. So I'm going to select both of those and do my model extrude along path, making the line the path and leaving the profile fixed. We'll click OK, and back to top. We want to make sure that this lines up with the center of our nil post. So I'm going to draw a temporary line. I'm going to grab this, hold down Shift, move it till it intersects that line, and then I can delete my line. So the last part of the handrail here is to cut this off at an angle. But we have to remember that the wall is in play here. So I need to exit the group wireframe. So I'm going to draw my rectangles out. Hopefully I'll draw them better than that, outside the group. So there and there. And then I can extrude those 4 inches. And if I go to top view, who knows where those are? But I can move them into place. Now I need to get them inside the group. So here's a neat cutting and pasting trick. I'm going to cut them, but then I'm going to go inside my groove and I'm going to edit paste in place. So it puts them back at exactly the same place that they were when I cut them. So that gets them inside the group. So now I can select all 3 objects and do a model subtract solids. And now that handrail is cut off at the right angle. The final thing we need to do with this handrail is to turn it into a symbol. So we're going to go to unnecessary zoom, top plan view, and we're going to draw a rectangle that corresponds, and then we'll select both items and do modify create symbol. We're going to call this long handrail. Leave everything else the same. We'll put it in the scenery folder. Okay, there we have it. And then we need to send the null post to the front. Modify send to front. All right, we're getting close on the stairs. The last thing we need to do is to create the balusters. The first step in the baluster creation is to go to the molding file and select the baluster. This is in 3 pieces, and I'll explain why in a minute. I'm going to copy that and paste it into our project. Then before we go any farther, I just want to check and make sure that this is tall enough, and it is. We'll end up having to cut some of it off. Actually, we can go ahead and chop this. We make sure this is in the center of the step first. So we're going to align the center, or the left side of this with the center of the step, and then we can cut off. I'm going to go a little higher than we're going to have to do a solid subtraction to get the angle anyway. So modify clip surface, delete, delete. Okay, so this is in 3 parts because the center part is round, so it needs to be swept, but the top and the bottom are square, so they're going to have to be extruded along a path. So we'll start by sweeping this section. Model sweep. Okay. Now I'm gonna go to isometric and draw a square. It can really be any size, but then I'm going to put that, the center of that square, and on that corner of the top piece. I'm going to select them both, and I'm also going to select the bottom. And then we'll do a model extrude along path, and we'll make sure that the square is selected as the path and that the profiles are fixed. We'll say OK. Then we go back and look at the front. Looks good. I cut it off too short. Even I forgot that it was going to be twice the size. But fortunately, because of memory, we can fix that. So if I select just this piece and use the reshape tool in the first mode, in the stretch mode, I can make it taller. And the reason I used the reshape tool and didn't just stretch it is because it's not a rectangle. It actually has an arc, a fillet down here at the bottom. So then if I exit, okay, so now it's tall enough. And so our next step is to cut this off at an angle. So we're going to use the polygon tool to draw this shape, and then we'll extrude that 2 inches on 3 inches. It can't hurt to go oversized. Back to top, holding down shift, pulling up so that it stays aligned vertically. Then back here, let's actually go back to front. And then if I select both of these and do model subtract solids, now we have the baluster that fits. So we're going to go ahead and turn this into a symbol. So we'll draw this rectangle. So we'll select all of the objects, modify, create symbol. It's a baluster. Okay, put it in the scenery folder, and there we have it. So we just merely need to duplicate that and put it in the center of each of our steps. Don't need one there. We're going to go back to top and make sure that those are, and these should also actually be in the center of the handrail. So I'm going to draw a line down the center of the handrail. And then we're going to select these, holding down shift. And we're going to grab one of them by the center, hold down shift, and pull straight up until it intersects the line we just drew. Then we can delete that line. I can copy this, Command D, and put it, let's see which midpoint we're going for. The midpoint of the stairs should be right there. So right there, I believe. Back to the left view, and then we'll put that right there. And we need to rotate this. So we'll go to top, and we need to rotate it to the left, I think. Modify, rotate left, back to the left view. Whoops, that was totally wrong. So modify, rotate, flip horizontal, which of course only works in hybrid. Yeah. So when you have a hybrid object, I'm glad I did this, so I can point this out. When you have a hybrid object, you can only rotate it in the 2D view, unfortunately. So I'm going to go back here. So I need to modify, rotate right, and then I think I'm going to have to do that again. Yeah. Rotate right. Okay, now, interestingly, it's too short. I wonder why. Well, we'll just move the handrail, but because of course they should all be the same. put this in the center there. That is really interesting. I thought we did both handrails the same. Oh well. Going to select both handrails. Remember, there are two of them, one on either side. Hold down, grab here, hold down Shift, and just pull it down until it reaches the top of the handrail. Then we'll go back to the top. We'll select these two balusters and use the mirror tool in the center here to put them on the other side. And finally, I believe that completes the staircase. Let's see if that all looks good. Yes, so let's see how it looks in context. Yeah, all looks good. So next we will we'll do some molding, and I promise that the molding is much less tedious than the staircase. The whole rest of the room will not be nearly as labor intensive as the staircase was. The first thing we're going to do is deal with the door and window casing. The built-in Vectorworks door and window tools provide trim, but it's pretty generic. It's basically just a one by. So we're going to replace this generic trim with actual molding. We're going to go to left view, I guess, first. Actually, we could do this in isometric. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to work on the door. I'm going to turn off the built-in molding. So we'll go to the door and find trim and turn it off. All right, that was step one. Step two, we're going to go to the molding file and we're going to find the door and window casing. And here it is. Edit, copy. Back to the project. We're going to paste that in. And I think, yeah, this needs to be rotated to lie flat. So I'm going to go to left and modify rotate left, and then top and modify rotate right. I want it to line up the way it actually would on the door. So it's going to be like that. So back to isometric. Now I'm going to draw a path around the door using the 3D polygon tool. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to go up to here, come over to here, and down to here, and double click. So there's my path. Then and it looks weird because it's solid. It doesn't really matter, but that's irritating. So I'm gonna turn the fill of that off. Next, I'm gonna take my molding and line it up here. I think I just drugged the whole floor. Probably I did. Let's try that again. I'm gonna grab the molding and line it up there. And while we're at it, I'm going to duplicate that molding. Where did that end up? Yeah, let's move that out of the way. Back to here. So then I can grab the path we just drew, which actually is sometimes harder than it sounds. Let's see if I can select that. Yeah. So the trick is to select the path, but not the door. So you just have to not include in your selection the last little part of the door there. But so there's our path. Now we extrude along path, model, extrude along path, and make sure that the path is selected, not the molding. And fixed profile is on, and there we have it. So now we have something that actually looks like molding and not like a 1x4. So we will continue that on the other doors and the windows. I'm going to go ahead and set up the other doors and windows for the molding. So I'm going to select the other 4 doors and windows, and oh, I was hoping it was going to let me turn all of the trim off, but I'm going to have to select the windows at the same time and the door separately. So I'm going to select both windows and turn the trim off, and then I'm going to select both doors and turn the trim off. And then I'm going to go ahead and place a copy of the molding in the right place for each of these. So I'm going to rotate this to the left. And we're going to duplicate that. You have to be careful about grabbing larger objects that are underneath. There, we'll put that one here so we can get it to it for the window. We're going to duplicate that and put it here, and then we'll duplicate that and bring it over here, and we're going to turn it to the left, modify, rotate left, so that it's lined up for this door. Then we can just go back and individually do each of the, let's see if this would be easier in that view so we can see them all. Nope. So we're gonna do that. Then 3D polygon, drawing this path. Double click when I'm done. Grab this. I just moved the floor again. I could lock the floor, which would keep you from moving it, but that would be too easy, of course. So I'm going to put that there, and then hold down Shift, and I can select the path, and then we'll do model extrude along path, making sure the path is highlighted, and boom, there that is. For the window, I should be able to just draw a rectangle if I can use the automatic plane and draw the rectangle right here. Then I need to find the molding, so we're going to go into wireframe because it's going to be down on the ground somewhere. Where did it go? There it is. So there's the molding. So we'll put that right there, and then we'll do our extrude along path model, extrude along path. Make the path highlighted. There's that. Great. Then we will draw another rectangle. Once again, an automatic working plane so that we can be on the window casing plane, the front of the window casing plane. We'll draw that rectangle. We'll grab our molding and put it right there. Select them both. Model extrude along path. And then finally, we will do the archway. So we're going to do back to, do I want to do a 3D polygon? I just want to do a regular polygon. Let's try that. Click there. Now pull up until I find the endpoint. Click there. Come over here and find the endpoint there, and then come down to here, double click, And then finally, I need to reshape, use the reshape tool. I want to add a curve, and I want it to be the radius curve. And so I'm going to pull this up until it intersects with the curve there. Then I can select my molding, put it right there. Take the molding and the path and do extrude along path. And that completes the door and window molding. See, I told you this wasn't going to be as tedious as the stairs. So the next thing we'll do is the wainscoting, which is what a strange view, which is this molding here. So we'll go to the molding folder and select the wainscot, which is made up of several different pieces. There's baseboard and there's quarter round or shoe molding. There are two pieces of chair rail, and then there's just a 1/4 inch thick. So this is like a piece of Luan that we're going to extrude. That's eventually going to become bead board, if you know what that is. It's board that has grooves in it, like every 1.5 inches. We're not actually going to do that dimensionally. We're going to apply a texture next week to this to make it look like beadboard without having to actually model it. So that's what that is. So we're going to select this all, edit, copy, go back to the model. We can go to front view and paste this in right there. We are going to do this in 2 sections, one that will start and wrap around to here, and then we'll start over here and wrap it around again. And we're gonna, there's the easy way to do this and there's a hard way to do this. The hard way to do this is to do individual pieces. So there'd be a piece here that would stop at the door, and there would be a piece that started here and went to the window, and then a piece that was under the window. But rather than do that, we're just gonna ignore the doors and the windows of the first pass, and then we're going to go back and cut holes in the molding where there shouldn't be molding, which is a lot faster and easier than trying to apply the molding individually. So let's go to top view. The first thing we need to do is establish our path, so we can use a regular polygon, and we're just going to go around the wall. So that corner to that corner, here, 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 and then we're going to return back to the edge of the stairs. So double click there. It can be solid, but I'm just going to make it not for clarity reasons. Then I'm going to go back to an isometric view, wireframe, and grab the molding. I'm going to go ahead and make a copy of it because I'm going to need it again. And you'll notice that my line actually drew underneath, so I can either just use it there and then move it up when I'm done, or I can move it up now. So there's the line there. I'm going to line the molding up so that it touches there. So the back of this at the front edge of the wall. Then I'm going to select the molding and the line, hopefully not the molding and the wall. There we go. Okay, and then do an extrude along path. Model, extrude along path, and make sure that the path is highlighted. Click OK. All right, so far so good. Next, we'll go back to top, and I'm going to use the polygon tool. Going to start here. I'm going inside the newel post a little bit just to make sure that I'm starting at the actual center post and not at the edge of molding somewhere. I actually could probably start like right here. So we'll start there. We'll go to this corner. We'll go to here and double click. And there's our path. So then back to isometric, wireframe, grab the molding. This time I'm going to go over the other direction, so I'm going to rotate this molding, flip horizontal, back to here. Going to line this up right there. Then we will see if I can, it's on the ground again. So we'll move that up to there. And then while we have that selected, I'll just hold down Shift and select the wainscoting as well. Then we can model extrude along path. And let's see where we are. Okay, so it's all there. We just need to cut holes in it to account for the doors and the windows. So in order to do that, we will, the doors are slightly easier than the windows. We're just going to draw, we have to account for the molding. So we're going to draw a rectangle that encompasses all of the molding and also covers all of the molding we just installed. And then we'll extrude this. I think if we do 4 feet, it should be good. There, nope, 4 feet wasn't quite enough. Because we started on the ground again, so I could just move it up. Move 3D, I need to move 8 inches in the Z direction. So it goes up, there we go. Now if I leave that selected and then select the wainscot here and then do a model, subtract solids, that takes care of that. Then we can go to front view here, is probably the easiest. Draw a rectangle that corresponds with the window molding. I can actually go a little higher than I need to. We're going to extrude that, let's say 6 inches. Oops, 6 inches. Okay. Top view, we'll just move that back a little bit, back to front view, select both things, model, subtract solids. So there, that side is done. We don't have to deal with this window. This door, we can do this in the front view. Even though we did the other one in the top view, it doesn't really matter. We'll do here. Model extrude. 6 inches, okay. We'll go to top. We'll move it up, back to front, select it, modify, model, subtract solids, there. And then finally, we'll go to, we could do left if we're in wireframe. I just need to be able to see the door. So we'll start here on the molding and actually I just drew the whole door, but it doesn't really make any difference. I just need something to subtract with. So model extrude for 6 inches again, sure. Go to top view, make sure, move this to make sure that it's in the right place, and then model, subtract solids. Okay. That completes the wainscot. Almost. In order to texture this properly next week, we need the the chair rail and the baseboard to be separate from the 1/4 inch piece here. So rather than having to do everything we just did twice, here's a trick. So we've done this. I'm going to duplicate it and put it on top of the other one. So now we have two identical copies, and I'm going to edit one of them to remove the wainscot and the chair rail, and the other one to remove the center board, and then we'll have what we need. So we're going to double click here, which will put us back to this subtraction, and then we're going to double click again, which will put us back to that subtraction. And if I double click one more time, it will take me back to the original extrude, and I want to extrude I want to edit the profile, and I'm going to go, just went to front view. I'm just going to delete the center board there, and then if I exit profile, and if I keep exiting back out, now I have just the top and bottom molding. So then I can edit the other one that's there. Just keep double clicking until you get back to what you want. I'm going to do the profile, and now the front view, I want to delete the top molding and the bottom molding, leaving me with just the center, and I'll keep exiting. And so now I have an extrude that's just the center molding and another extrude that's the top and the bottom molding, and I only had to do the sort of the hard work once. So I'll do the same thing on this side. We'll duplicate this, put it there, double click, double click, double click, profile, front view, delete the center, keep exiting. Now double click, double click, double click. We'll go to front, and we'll delete the top and the bottom. So, looking good. Okay, almost done with the molding. We just need to put the crown molding on, and then we'll be done with the molding. So, and the crown is really easy. We'll go to the molding folder, and we're going to grab the crown and the picture rail. In case any of you don't know what picture rail is, because it's from the last century, it's a railing that went around the top of the room where you could take a hook and hang wire from it to hang pictures. So it also was just decorative, but that's the reason it's called picture molding. So I'm going to select both of these, edit, copy. We'll put them in the drawing right there. Go ahead and duplicate that. We're going to get a top view. We're going to draw a path around the top of the room. Here, 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 there, there. I think we'll want to return here. So we're on the ground again. So I could just move this up to there. Can grab both of these, put them here, select our path, model, extrude along path, make sure the path's selected. Look, yes, good, okay. That's what we really want. So now we need to do the molding around here. I'm gonna use the 3D polygon tool this time, so I can draw it at the top rather than the bottom. Doesn't really matter, but it just saves me one step of moving it. So there, double click. Then we can grab the molding going to go to front, modify, rotate, flip, horizontal. Yep. Back to isometric. We'll put them both right there. We'll select both of them and the path. Model, extrude along path. And there we have all of the molding. So let's go to front perspective. There's the room. I think I'm going to leave the plantation shutters for next week. So we have one thing to model, and then we'll add the textures and the lighting and do the plans. I feel like some of your heads are spinning over all this molding. So this seems like a good place to stop. If you're able to render with your computer, you can do a white model. And actually, if you go to the sheet layer, it will already be set up from when we did it for the first part of this project. You can just update it and export it as a PDF. So I would like for you to turn in, please, the PDF of the second part 2 here with the molding, and along with the Vectorworks file of part 2. You had to have done part 1 correctly in order to do part 2. So I only need to see part 2. So PDF of part 2 and the part 2 file. If you're able to render it in white model, then you should do that. If your computer doesn't want to do that, then you can just leave it in OpenGL. And yours will look more like that. So either way is fine. All right, thanks for following along with the tedious molding. And next week we will finish this room up.